Okay, the Paint Mary Paint channel is about parent avocation. I'm going to try to help parents identify their strengths. I do life skills training. I'm a traumatic brain injury support specialist. I help families in crisis. I did internships at CASA and CYFD. I'm a trained registered CASA, but I don't think the system is working. I don't think it's worked in a long time. I think there's certain programs that work that are community programs. I've identified like things like the FASTER program or the Wings for Life. These programs seem to be doing more than anything I've seen. So I'm going to volunteer my time and I'm going to paint. And we're going to talk about things like strengths and how, like, when I was doing my internship at CYFD, how they teach the workers to identify parents' strengths and how to teach the parents to do this, because there's certain things that they look for. And when they get, my kitten wants to help paint. So when they see certain things, or a teacher's called, or there's marks found, or say somebody's called and said you don't have the lights on, or the power's been turned off, and things happen and people run into trouble, especially single parents. And I was a single parent. I raised 4 children, and my oldest is 28. I have a 25 and a 24-year-old, and I lost a 14-year-old, let's see, 4 years ago. So I have a lot of life experience, and I can come from there and help you, or I can show you how you can partner. I know this sounds crazy, but look, a lot of the CYFD workers, or I don't know what they're called in your county if you're watching this somewhere else. I'm outside of Roswell, New Mexico, and it's CYFD here. But I've noticed that, the parents and the workers that start working together are much more successful getting the parents reunited with their children. And it's hard for the clients, because if you're a parent and your kids get taken away, it's a serious thing. And sometimes, like I said, it's just circumstances happen. Sometimes, life happens to us, and I notice that there's a lot of misunderstandings, and I don't understand why, because a lot of CYFD workers are parents. And maybe that's why they have a hard time with that. Maybe they were of a child that was taken into custody, or, sometimes they're just a really good parent that have had a lot of things going for them, and they can't understand how somebody could neglect or abuse their child. And then we got to get into what is abuse and what is neglect, And I think that's where we can start working from. If you look around, first of all, there's nobody that knows better about your life than you do. You're there. Sometimes we have a hard time looking at our lives, or facing, what we're having to deal with. Okay. But by not identifying our weaknesses and not identifying our strengths, that's when people get in trouble. And I just feel like a year, and I mean, I understand where the court was coming from when they said they have a year in which to get the children adopted, because if it's a baby and they start forming attachments to the foster parents or the prospective adoptive parents, it can be real traumatic for them. But I say if they just remove your children, that's traumatic for both of you guys. It's for the parents and the child, and because they're already in crisis, it's that's a hard thing to overcome. But it can be, and I've seen parents successfully get their children back and go on to be okay. I've been concerned because I've seen a lot of parents, and it's daunting. Say if you had addiction problems or mental problems and you weren't getting those addressed, or you didn't have insurance or whatever. And so, I see that a lot of people like that, they'll have trouble. And it's better if we address those problems, before the children come into custody. And the ones that do, they just feel like it's so daunting, they don't even want to try. And I'm going to tell you, I don't care how bad of a parent you think you are, or if you don't think you can get into a good rehab program, or if you don't think you could successfully get a better job to support your children, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you, your child wants to be with you. And this is the truth. The children, every one of them that I've seen and worked with, there's very few that don't just want their mother and father, and they don't care about their mental problems. They don't care that they don't have anything to eat hardly. They don't. The children really just want you and your time. Okay? So don't give up hope. If your children have been taken into custody, fight, and don't fight with your worker partner. I mean, get them on your side. Talk to them and do some self checks, and find out, what your strengths are and start capitalizing on them. And I just recommend everybody, please try not to come into contact uh, with the police, and if it's a custody issue, parents, please try to work it out between you, because I promise you, you could do a better job at helping them than somebody who's overworked and done so much in this system that they know it's pretty much hopeless. I'm just here to tell you the truth. It's all up to you. I mean, I know everybody says, well, maybe they just can't do it, and there's no excuse for not fighting for your kid. The problem is there's not enough resources and help for parents that I see, except for these community programs. And the other is the will of the parent. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of times I felt like giving up, and instead I got up, you know? And that's the only reason I was able to raise my children. It's not an easy thing, you know? I think that people lose hope real quick because they get afraid. Automatically, you feel out of the water because here's an agency. It's got lawyers and they've got the law on their side, and they got your children, and everybody has different parenting styles and raises their children different. And like I said, sometimes it's just circumstances. And so I encourage people before, if you got a problem, go and get some help. You know best what you need and how to help yourself. I think that most people don't believe that they're good enough or they can do it, and it's really frustrating. If, like I said, if you're a single parent, whether you're a man or a woman, It's hard to raise your children alone. I mean, there's a lot of people, they're having trouble raising their kids with, somebody with them. Come here. Oh, okay, kitty. Over here. He likes to help me paint. Sorry about that. So, and when parents start fighting over custody or in laws or whatever, it really gets ugly. And the kids always pay. And what's terrible is so do the parents. I'm going to tell you, if there's any way to work it out, try to work it out between you guys. And if you do get your children taken away from you, try to find somebody to help you. And there's a lot of social workers like me that aren't in the system because we want to help. And you can't, when you're in the system, you have to follow policy and procedure. Me as an advocate, I can help anybody I want to. I'm not getting paid for it. If I get anything, it'll be just donations, or I'll sell my paintings to fund it. Whatever I got to do. And there's a lot of retired social workers, and some of them are they were running places like that are retired, and they know. And a lot of them are for the parents and really want to help. So I suggest you find someone, and like if you're here in this area and you want to contact me, there's a email address and everything. You can get a hold of me, and it's paintmary72@gmail.com, and I'll try to answer your questions. And I'm going to be putting up videos here and showing you things that you can do to help yourself. If, like I said, if your kids have been taken into custody, you need to learn the policy and procedures. And I tell people, write your own parenting plan. Okay. If you really want to do something, that's the best thing you can do. It'll impress your worker, it'll impress the judge that you got your stuff together and you're trying. And I promise you, you need to do this. I warn people about teaching their children to just blindly follow orders. And I've seen a lot of kids have gotten molested, and the parents were really thinking they were doing the right thing uh, by letting their friend watch their kid or whatever. And you need to be real careful and make sure your child understands that they do not have to blindly follow orders. Okay. And I know when we got the things with the school and all that, but I'm going to tell you something. It's a real dangerous thing for you to not teach your children to use their critical thinking skills. And you may not think a kid hasn't, but they do. Okay. And the thing about it is that it can be the one thing that saves them from getting molested, or saves you from being in court because your friend did something to your child. I've just seen so much, and I want to share with you guys the things you can do to prevent things from happening. Because once your children come into custody, it gets a lot harder to untangle yourself from the courts. Okay. And it just makes it harder for the kids. The kids are really suffering because we're all having a hard time. There's a lot of parents I talk to, and they're having a hard time making ends meet. And then they're getting a lot of pressure, to do other things. And this is not the time to be partying. I'm going to tell you that. There's a lot of kids that are going missing. There's a lot of things that happen. And I wish I could say, oh, it's a sunny, rosy world and nothing ever bad happens. But, it's just not true. So, forewarned is forearmed, isn't it? And you need to think about your strengths and your children's strengths and how to stay away from situations, you know, like I've seen people that they were just partying and had their friends over, and everybody got a little drunk, and well, some people didn't want to drive home, so they let them stay, and then something happens to their little boy or their little girl. And I know it's terrible that I even have to go on here and talk about this, but if I don't, nobody else will. See? And I want you to understand that a lot of times, once they come in to custody, the children, I mean, it causes them a lot of trauma. And it's just not worth it. Um, I advocate instead of doing pain medicine or whatever, or if you're trying to self medicate, don't do that. And try something different. They've gotten cannabis cards, and a lot of people are using cannabis, including a lot of social workers. I would be one of those. I'm also a cannabis supporting social worker. Sometimes it's good for that to get off of other addictions you have. You might want to try it. But get your card. Why get your card? Well, because you're going to try to do everything legally because you're dealing with a legal system that is not on your side. Don't ever think you're going to find justice in a system that is as corrupted as ours is. And that's just the truth. Everybody knows it. They don't know what to do about it. We're just going to keep doing the same thing because, we don't know how to stop it. That's pretty much what it is, you know? So, how do we do this? You understand that there's a danger and you make sure that you have enough food, water, and shelter for your children. And you do whatever you got to do to make sure of that, you know? And be careful when people want to watch your children. I know sometimes we all need a break, especially as single parents, but sometimes that's the biggest mistake that parents make is, hey, they said they were going to watch my kid and it wasn't a problem. Well, of course, they're going to say that because they want your children. And then, of course, social services is going to get involved. And this is the thing about it. Nobody's perfect and nobody expects them to be perfect. But this system, if you get caught up in it, you will understand real quick that you need to hit the ground running. You know, I tell people, if you should have started yesterday, but you didn't, so you need to start today. What are your assets? What are your strengths? What can you do? Uh, what caused this? What happened so you don't get in this trouble again? You know, and it's usually a wake up sign to some that they need some help. And then others, it's sometimes the one time they do get help, you know. It is what you make it. I suggest you try to make it as easy on yourself, your worker, and the children, because everything will go a lot smoother that way. There's things you can do. Uh, if nobody in your household has graduated from college, you might want to go and look at an associate's or a trade school or something like that and try to get some financing for that. You know, there's different job opportunities now for people that are highly skilled and low educated. So that's fine too, because we need skilled workers too. And the reason I'm talking to you about finances is because they start watching people if they look poor. And if your child is going to school and they're dirty, these are markers that they look for. Or if your child seems terribly hungry when they come to school, they're going to look for that. And this is just teachers, social workers, unfortunately not policemen, are trained in this way. They should be, but they're not. But they all look for these markers to see about the health of a child or about their house. And then if they go to your house and the yard's trashed, you know what I mean? They're gonna look at this stuff. That's what they're trained to look for. Is that necessarily an indicator of an abusive person? No. But it's a poor person, and that could be the same thing. Okay? So we need to make sure that our lives and our children's lives are in as much order as can be possible. Hard in this chaotic time, you bet it is. It's a hard time to be a single parent. It's a hard time to just be a parent. So I don't know. If that's not enough to scare you straight, I don't know what is. And be like me. I mean, I raised my kids. Now I can do what I want. You know, that's what you do. Because I'm telling you, you won't have a chance. You really won't. If they get your kids and you start fighting them and you're not willing to work with them, it's you can bet you're going to be in for a fight because they got more resources than you. And they're going to have a lot of people on their side because, nobody likes that kids get abused. Everybody gets real upset about it. Uh, so you're going to be the bad guy. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to prove yourself innocent because you are guilty until proven innocent in most of these cases. And I'm not coming on here to scare anybody. I'm really coming on here to try to help because it seems like everybody wants to talk around the issues instead of addressing them and doing something about it. So this is my way of taking the social work degree that I have and saying, oh, thanks, but let's try something else. Okay. And I'm able to do that because, like I said, my kids are grown. And I'm not rich, but I'm not starving. And so I have time. I have time to do something about it. And that's what I'm going to do. This painting is what I do It's like art therapy. Yeah, relaxes me. And I have another channel where I do it, and it seems to relax other people. And I'm hoping that, it'll help bring some relief to some people to just listen to me prattle on and paint. I'm horrified that I hear all the time, well, maybe my kids would be better off. And that's just the one message I couldn't drum in you enough. Uh, there's nobody better for you and for your child but your child and you. And don't be afraid to be friends with your child and talk to them. You know, it helps. It really helps that we communicate with our children and let them know that they're loved and let them know that, we'll do anything to help them. And I'm telling you, that may seem like a small thing. That is the most precious thing is your time that you give your child. All the rest of it, they'll forget all about it. I promise you. It's going to be the things that you did with them. It is. It's going to be the times you held them, the times you went to their games or the whatever, the time you watched them play video games. I mean, little things, big things, all that, but it's the time. It's the time. So that's why it's so hard to be a parent nowadays because you're going to have to balance that time along with working time or school time or whatever it is that you do. And know this: it's just the system is not for you. It's not set that way. And it never was, and it's never going to be. And so the justice you're going to find is the one that you make for yourself and your children. And first of all, do it by honoring each other. I mean, really honor your children and worship them. And it's okay to be their friends, like I said. And it's okay to talk to them and tell them it's okay to not go in a room with an adult without first calling and talking to mom and dad, or tell them, if Uncle John or anybody, anybody uh, tells you they want you to keep a secret, you need to come talk to mom or dad, and mom and dads, when you're going through the custody issues, remember, mom and dad's not the bad guy. I'm telling you right now, they love it when parents do not get along because they know that that kid is going to be left alone at some point. Okay? Same thing with the drugs, and the alcohol. Hey, let's go over to your house. Think about it. Think about it carefully because that could be the one thing that happens that could change your life and your child's life and not for the better. Okay? It's happened to a lot of people, and I will warn you, you cannot trust a lot of people with your children, and especially there's no way you can trust somebody that's high or drunk with your children. Don't do it. Okay? That's just the best advice I can give you on that. Does that mean everybody's a weirdo and a pedophile and a pervert? No, it doesn't. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people do things when they're high or drunk that they normally wouldn't do, right? We know this because everybody's done alcohol and drugs, and we know. Think of it that way. Think about that. How many times these people, there are some that just look for that. They do. And then, like I said, there's times it's just somebody that was too high and there was opportunity there, and that's what happens. So Protect yourself and your children, and you are protecting yourself when you're protecting those children. Remember that. That's it's real important that you understand that you and your child are the most important thing to each other. You have to really partner up. And parents, I know it's hard when you're going through a divorce or whatever and things get rough. Just remember this. It is in your best interest and that child's best interest that you try to work it out with the parent. Okay? And if you need some advocation, there's parent advocates. So you can get a hold of one and they can help you. I always try to answer everybody's question. And I tell you, if I don't know it, I'll get back to you on it and I'll look it up for you and try to help you work through it. It seems to be more single parents now. So this has become such an issue here that they're having to take children all the way to Albuquerque for a foster parent to watch them. And that means that the parents don't get to see them. And that's really hard on the kids and the parents. So, like I said, try to manage your own life and keep out of the radar of people that they're trained to look for this stuff. I mean, this is it. And if somebody tells you, "Hey, I noticed so and so was saying something about your kid, and you might need to watch it," don't get defensive and be mean. Tell them thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been having problems. Talk to people. You'll be surprised how many people would be willing to help you if you just reach out. And we all need help sometime. And just like I said, if you're a parent and you're a single parent now, you're really going to need help. And that's okay. You can ask for help. And it would sure be better to get help than to have your child taken away, you know? And I'm sure that a lot of people, when it happens to them, I've just heard so many say, I never thought this would happen to me. And, I don't know what happened. Well, you know what? You're not the only one. Okay. That's just the way that is. The thing about it is, there's always a chance to do something else. And that's when you have the chance to change and to change whatever behavior it is that brought you in there. And hey, if it's not, because I've seen some cases that it wasn't the parents, that it was something else. And I tell them, you know what? You have to be patient and try to help yourself. And what I mean by that is, being hateful or ugly to an overworked social worker is not going to work in your favor. I'd suggest you try to partner with them and really win them over to your side. Tell them, hey, they're just people. A lot of them are parents too. And you tell them. I mean, I love it because we had one client, she came in and she just said, she said, I'm so tired. You know what? I have 3 kids and they're driving me crazy. And yeah, I got drunk and I lost control. And, things happen, you know. And that's when you go, okay, you know what? No, you at least she straight up told us, we got her some help, and she actually got her kids back and is doing well. And then there's others that I don't know, they can't get it together or they don't want to, and those are the ones I really worry about because they really think that they don't make that big of a difference to their children, and they're really, really wrong. Um, no matter what they do to their children, I hate to tell you, every night or every day, that's who they're crying for is their mom or their dad. Okay? So it doesn't matter how bad you've messed up. It doesn't matter what you've done. There's always a chance to do something else and do something better. And so, let it be a wake up call. And if it's not, like I said, prove it's not right. Prove that, you were wronged in which other way. And if it was somebody else, then you need to help make sure that that person doesn't do that to somebody else. Okay. So that's just the best advice I can give you for that. And men and women do better together. That's just the way it is. Sometimes we don't get along or whatever. But in this time, I think it would be really smart to try to work it out with your spouse. And if you can't, then at least agree to disagree. You know what I mean? Let things go and try to work on a parenting plan yourself, because you can do that before any of this happens. I'm telling you, it's so much better if you do that. Say, you take them this day and I'll take them this day, and be flexible about it if you're having to do the custody thing. And remember, everybody's suffering. The children are, you're suffering, mom's suffering. It's not pretty. That divorce is never easy. It's never pretty. It's like a death. And I mean, some people take it serious, and the kids become the pawns in this game, and that is really upsetting. Because then again, guess who pays? It's the kids, but in the end, you're going to pay too. You know, uh, Kids just don't need to see that. They're having enough to deal with, in the schools and stuff. I homeschooled my children because I believe bullying's a big problem that's just been uh, perpetuated. They said zero tolerance, but that's not true. And so I said, teach your children not to be victims. Teach them not to be bullies. And know this, that nothing has to be the way it is. Things can always change. I see the worst looks on people's faces when they come to that program and they're just devastated. And my heart goes out to parents because, you just can't be a parent and not feel it. When somebody's kids get taken, you know, that's just not a good thing. And they're gonna look at your yard when they drive by, okay? Because they're taught to do this. They're gonna look at your house. Uh, they allow you to spank your children in the state of New Mexico, but if they find bruises, welts, or blood, they're going to come get your kids because that is abuse. What is neglect? Neglect is if you've let your kids, you've left them and you don't come around, and they're trying to make cereal, and they're too young to be there. Somebody's going to call, and social services is going to be there. And if you're a single parent, just make sure your kids call the agency. I mean, say, what's the age that I can leave my children alone safely? If you have to work at a certain time and you can't find anybody, that's what you do. You have to do other things to keep your children out of their eyes. And you too. You don't want to become in there. I promise you. You do not want to come in contact and have this over your head. And the parents that do, that's why I'm helping, because I'm telling you, it's devastating. It is. And the ones that come out of it, they're good. I'm telling you. And they're tough because you have to be. You're going to have a lot of people mad at you. And you're going to have to prove yourself worthy of being a parent. That's what that's about, really. You know, is it for the benefit of the children? Well, they're going to tell you it is, but do you think it is? So that's why I'm the antisocial worker. Uh, that's why I'm going to do this a different way because there's another way of doing things. We can help each other. Parents helping parents. There's parents getting schools together and running schools together. There's community programs, like I was talking about, the faster programs. Or if you've been incarcerated and you're having trouble, adjusting and getting your kids back and all this, that all these programs will help you that are community programs. Wings for Life, the faster program. I don't know what it is in your area because we just have a super guy that he really understands parents and he started that program. So I doubt if other places have had it. I think they were talking about implementing it in other places because it's so successful. And what he does is just tell them the truth. And the judge that is going to be hearing their cases comes in and tells them how they don't have but 1 year. You have 1 year to get your stuff together when your kids come into custody. After that, they will be adopted. Sometimes it's by your parents, family members, but if there's nobody there, guess what? They can go to another state. And I know you don't want that. And people think at the time it's easier and maybe the kids would be better off. Let me assure you, even the children's judge that comes to the faster meetings will tell you that not only are they wrong, even the most successful adoptions they have is not as good as when they were with a parent. That even though may not have been perfect, was their parent. Okay, so nothing against the foster parents, but they'll tell you the same things. They'll tell you those kids cry for their moms and their dads, and I hope that helps some people. And like I said, you can leave comments here or on my video, and I can direct you to the foster program here on the outside of the Roswell area. If you just need somebody to talk to, you're having trouble or custody issues or whatever, I'll try to help you and see if I can't find you the help you need. If I don't know, I will find somebody who does. Okay. And like I said, for all of you that your kids are already in custody, I wish you well. Stay strong and remember those kids need you, not somebody else. And they need you to be straight and they need you to be working and helping to get your life on track so that you can have them because they're depending on you. And just remember, don't ever give up on yourself or your kids. That's the one person that will always uh, be there or should always be there for you is your mom or your dad or your grandmother or whoever that person is. And you need to make sure that they understand that you adore them, you worship them, be their friend. I tell kids, hey, help mom, help dad. It's hard, and they know. Let me tell you what, when I worked after school program, I'm going to share with you guys that some of the poorest children that were in there, that one parent or the other was incarcerated, they would cry, but they'd say, what a great parent they have. You guys are the only thing that they have, whether you're in jail or not. Those little kids every day at that school would tell me, Mom's having a hard time. She drinks too much, and I know she's sad and she misses dad. And if you could just hear their stories, you would know how important it is that you not let your children be taken from you. And if they are, that you do whatever you can in your power to get them back. It's real important. A lot of workers are so overworked and they're so tired and they feel like they're against everybody, which they are. See, they put them in between you and the court system, and they pretty much give them no rights to help you, but they tell them to help you. Okay? So, this is what I'm saying. If you will just try to get along with that worker, and if you can't, if you will tell them, hey, I need another worker, do whatever you have to do because those kids are depending on you. And we need our kids. I'm going to tell you what, my 28-year-old, my 25-year-old, my 24-year-old, they're still as important to me right now as they were then. And that's the one thing that kept me straight and kept me going right was my kids. You got to make them that important. And you know what? You won't regret it. And someday you'll look back and you'll say, hey, I overcame this and I did good. And that's where you should be at. Don't you ever let anybody tell you that your kids are better off without you. And don't you ever stop fighting. So I hope you enjoyed the session. And here is my painting. Here, kitty. Come over here. This is my kitty. He wanted to help paint too. He did pretty much, didn't you? And remember and always remember your strengths. Remember what you've got going on for you and capitalize on it. Your weaknesses, well, you're going to have to work on those too. Search inside and try to get yourself help. You know when you need help. You know when you don't. You know, you know? I mean, just be on, and you'd be surprised at how many people would say, "Oh yeah, I did," and I'm serious. Just try that and see if it doesn't work. And you know what? Do not ever push your worker or anything like that because I'm telling you, then they start thinking of you as being violent. And I know it's hard. I've had to take parents and pull on their shirt. No, no, because it's not going to do anybody any good. So that's another little piece of advice. If you need help, like I said, you can contact me on my email, and I left my phone number there on that video. So y'all have a pleasant night, and I hope everything is well with you. And we'll do another painting again.